Okie dokie. All right. So, hi everybody. My name is Ryan Griffin. I worked at Oxide Games for about 4.5 years as a environment artist as well as a outsourcing support artist. I used to be a UMC alumni. I also used to be a professor teaching Intro to 3D as well. And I've done talks for this club throughout the years. I've done many different tutorials and things. I would highlight it. I would highly check out the UMC YouTube for different ones. Here's a few timestamps. So for me, it took me a while to be able to actually get to that full to where I started to where I am now. This is actually a little image which I did, which has like all of the different things that I've done over the years. And not all of it is in my current portfolio, but this is a bit of it here. Now, I actually started at the Howard County ARL program, which was the first 3D program in high school to be able to do that in the state of Maryland. So I've been doing 3D for a long time. I've been kind of exposed to it pretty early. I actually knew people who worked at Big Huge Games, which is another local game company. And with that, my brother actually worked there for many years. He worked there for like 6 7 years. But I got my start like a little later. I've been working on Aura History Untold. It's going to be out on PC later this year. Definitely check out some of the other videos and stuff here. There's also the dev diaries, which go through different systems and talking to developers. I'm actually in the Christmas special, so like there's lots of good information here, no matter the discipline, whether it is design, audio, programming, AI, game, QA, like you name it, there's something in here for you. So check that out later. Like I said, there's been a lot of like layoffs recently. I have been a part of that right at the top here. So like that's like been pretty recent. Like that was like I don't know, like 2 weeks ago or something like that. But I am not really deterred by it because I have a lot of experience, so I can probably pick something up quickly. And my brother actually just got a new job here locally at Bit Reactor, which is a newer studio. They're working on a secret project, but you can find out a little bit more on their website. This is some of my work within like high school. So this was like at least 15 years ago, but like everybody starts somewhere. And like this is like some stuff within college. So this was like a bit of my work. Let's see here. That's we've seen these. So I have like a bit of like environment stuff, vehicle stuff, prop stuff. Like I'm a little bit of a generalist, right? However, like I've really like focused on like environment art. That was like the main thing that I wanted to do back when I first started. So like this is like some of my stuff from my senior project. I actually did two senior projects. I did a full-on animation, which we had to do for the like actual like animation track, as well as the actual game development track as well. I was doing that, and we had a game that I was on, and I also was doing stuff for the global game jams as well. I believe that year, like my project actually won for the game dev. I believe that they won a award that year. But I also did like some graphic design stuff as well. I worked as a graphic designer and 3D artist at a toy and candy company for 3.5 years. I worked at a what's it called, a government contractor doing buildings. So with these, like they did evacuation simulations. So I would make the actual building renders, and then they would take little sprites that had little AI in them that said, hey, like how do I escape the building, right? And so it would simulate how to escape the building, and if there's like a fire somewhere or something like that, they would like go around it. And I basically made like a lot of those buildings. That was one of my internships. I had 3 different internships during college. I had one that was through the UMBC. What is it? The fellowship. I was in that. Although that year we actually did a video project. We didn't do a 3D project. And then later on I did this internship, and then I did one that was for AAA outsourcing through a company called Exis. And with that, that actually helped me to get my current job, actually, which was at Oxide Games, because they used Exis as a outsourcer. And so I started out as a outsourcing support artist in Oxide Studio, or Oxide Games. So that's a little bit of kind of like how I got my start, but it definitely took a little while to be able to get my skills good enough to be able to get in. And the key thing with that was being able to make game-ready models. And so with that, I was making models similar to this. I actually have a full tutorial, which I did earlier, which was on how to do a AAA stylized prop, which is on the UMBC YouTube channel. Definitely check that out when you have time. So today I wanted to kind of go over a little bit of how to make rocks. Now I've actually done a bigger tutorial on how to do a entire organic environment, but it basically I'm going to focus more on the sculpting aspect. But there are a bunch of other things which you can actually do to try to learn a little bit more about like a entire workflow with it. There's programs with Substance Designer, which are able to create these terrain textures or tiling textures. There's also stuff for making terrain through Gaia, Quad Center, or World Machine. I did a tutorial a while on the UMBC Discord for that as well. And with a organic environment, right? Those are using like rocks, trees, vines, shrubs, glyphs, all of that into a living world, right? And that's one of the things that's pretty important with everything with Aura. Like they have huge living worlds. Although I wasn't necessarily like a part of that. I was making more the buildings, the actual architecture, but I still have knowledge in terms of how to actually make that stuff. So I was making more of like these kind of buildings, or maybe the bigger buildings, maybe some of the smaller ones, right? But there is like still like a lot that goes into it with the terrain, the roads, and the trees and shrubs and mountains and rivers and all of the animals which go into the living world. There's a lot of stuff there. Okay, so what is a biome, right? So if we look outside, like we can say, hey, let's go to like a park, right? Like there's lots of like flora and stuff there, right? And so a biome is a collection of plants and animals that have a common characteristic within an environment that they exist in, right? So when we make a environment, right, we're looking at recreating a biome into a game realm, and we're having mechanics and stuff with that. So you kind of have to break that down. Hey, we have like terrain, we have grass, we have shrubs, we have flowers, we have all kinds of stuff, right? And all of that to be able to populate and flesh out our living world. But we also have to make it efficient, right? So like if you are able to do this kind of stuff, making it actually load quickly is a whole nother issue. So everything is in the green, so green is good. Pink, white is bad. So Okay, so this is stuff from my friend Roy. He's very talented and has done a lot of work with like a stylized environment stuff. I've done a more like in-depth tutorial on how to actually go through and make a living world and make a organic environment. So with this one, like I'm gonna kind of like gloss over it a little bit. But can anybody tell me like what a type of biome is? So like with that, like you have like many different types of biomes throughout the world, right? And like let's say like a taiga or a Mediterranean, an arid, a xeric. Like there's many different ones there, which vary within how much precipitation and the temperature, as well as its actual geography, where it's located. What type of biome do we have here in Maryland, right? So with that, we have a temperate deciduous forest, and a temperate is a like medium climate, and deciduous means that the plants and leaves lose their leaves. And so this is a little bit of what it looks like. It has four seasons. So this is at Gunpowder State Park, and this is basically the exact same thing in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So it's pretty close there. But yeah, so being able to make something like stylized and recreate that. Here's like two like really good examples, as well as being able to go to 80 level. 80 level is a great website that has breakdowns of how awesome game artists were able to go and make their living worlds or their projects. This can vary from a environment artist to a weapon artist to a tech artist. Many different things. Tech artists are actually quite valuable because they are able to help bridge the gap between programming and artists. However, they can be able to either create tools for artists to be able to be more efficient through writing scripts or tools to be able to help interface with a game engine or be able to create like trees or rocks or something. If a artist has to make something like 1,000 times, right, there's probably a more efficient way of doing it. Okay, so rocks, right? There's a lot of different kinds of things with digital sculpting, right? So with sculpting, typically you're thinking you have like a bit of clay, right? And you're putting it together and you're having a physical medium and using scrapes and tools and whatnot to be able to make something, right? So we're doing that on a digital level, and there's many programs out there which can do that. ZBrush was one of the first which was able to do that, and a lot of people were using it as a character art tool. However, it can be used for many different things. And ZBrush is kind of one of the standard programs. If you're trying to do like character art, it might be good to be able to try sculpting a character. There's a bunch of tutorials on that. I'm not necessarily covering that per se. So there's ZBrush, there's 3D Coat, there's Nomad for the iPad, and of course there's Blender. So Blender is the free option. Blender has come a long way, and I would definitely recommend people trying it because it's free. The only real thing that I would say that's a little bit of a barrier to entry is trying to get a graphic tablet. Those can range anywhere from like a $20 to $100 like cheaper one, or a Cintiq, which is one that I have that can range anywhere from 500 to 3500. So those can get quite expensive. Definitely check like different brands and stuff because there are like better bang for your buck with that. Or you could just like use a mouse and be like a caveman versus like actually using like a stylus and stuff. I learned how to do that. I was once a poor college student. I understand the frustration, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So yeah, we're gonna be doing like stuff within Blender. So with rock sculpting, right? Rock sculpting, you want to be able to look at the silhouette of a rock. Think about what kind of rock you are trying to make. And going back to the whole biome question of like, hey, like what kind of biome is this in? And look at the rocks in that biome, right? So if we're looking at a tundra rock, look at tundra images, and then look at the rocks and how they are constructed, and use that as your basis. Excuse me a second. Okay, so rocks. You want to be able to have them distinguishable from at least 5 sides. And so on this example here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 7, if you're including the bottom. And it is good to be able to have a rock that you do like the entire side. Or sorry, the entire object, and not just cut off the bottom. Because the thing is that if you actually model the entire thing, you can reuse it many times. And some people actually make one rock and reuse it like everywhere. The thing is that they are rotating it, scaling it a little bit, then turning it, and then like rotating it, and it's a completely different rock because of how that terrain is, and how the terrain is around it. So you can get a lot of reuse if you make one really good rock. So starting out with just kind of like a cube, right? And like smashing some cubes together. And then from there, you can get the silhouette, right? You want to be able to have a good silhouette for your rock. And so with this, you can kind of tell it's got more than 5 sides, right? If we look at the actual silhouette. So having large shapes, medium shapes, and small shapes. So big, medium, small. It's the rule of 3. There are many different rules of 3, but this is one of the applications. Now you have the big, medium, small, right? But if you distribute, hey, I want more large details or I want more small details, that will change up how the actual feel of the hierarchy of the actual distribution of those details. It's a little confusing, but I would probably check out Alex Senechal's tutorial on how to do that. I actually took a class with him, actually. This was like, I don't know, like 8 years ago or so, and he actually helped me to really level up my game because I really wanted to find out. Like I was a big fan of Halo, and so I actually went and took his class because I knew that he actually worked on a Halo, and I learned a lot from just being around people who were better than me. And so I'm not necessarily the smartest person in the room, right? I can still learn things from other people and being able to help level up my game. Okay, so back to these rocks again. So yeah, the silhouette part, right? And so with this, I am then going and actually doing the actual sculpting part. So I'm like kit bashing those rocks together and kind of like pushing and pulling those shapes and having them bash kit together. And then eventually I select all of them and I fuse them together. And then I'm going in and I'm adding a remesh on it to be able to add more detail to it. And then I'm able to sculpt on it. So with this, it's very low poly, right? And so I'm adding extra geometry to be able to get all this extra detail in it. This is what's called a high poly, right? With a lot of games, we have like all this extra detail with our actual models. But the thing is that it looks phenomenal, right? The problem is that it's not efficient for a game engine, right? It might be great for like a movie, like pre-rendered cinematic, right? But we're here for games, right? So we're trying to make that as a efficient game ready model. And so we have to make a low poly. And we're going to bake down all that high poly information into a map and then apply that to our 3D model. And so with this, I'm going through and sculpting extra details onto it. And so you'll see how they're kind of like starting to fuse together, and then I'm going to hit those edges and add in I, just the look and feel to it. I also would recommend using the orb brushes, which is a free pack by this guy who worked at Blizzard. This was like, I don't know, like 10 years ago plus maybe, that this guy made these things, and a lot of people use them. And there's Orb Pack, which is free for both Blender and ZBrush. I check it out. And so, like, once you have the rock sculpted, you can then do another level of detail by using these alphas. So you can use those brushes to be able to add in like cuts and like pebbles and like noise and stuff, to be able to add to the rock's full silhouette, right? So going back to that large, medium, small, right? The entire thing, with a silhouette, you want to make that look good from all five sides, and then go to the medium details. You're looking at like how each edge is like sculpted together, and roughing it and dinging it and going through a bunch of erosion, right? And then doing the tertiary details, the fine details, which are using those alphas for, or just procedural noise, to be able to undulate the mesh in certain ways. And then, taking that high poly, right, once it's kind of done, this is really good, right, for a high poly sculpt, but we need to bake it down, right? So we're going to take that and then in Blender use a decimate modifier to rack it down to a very low number. But it needs to still match the silhouette. So make sure it's not like doing anything crazy there. And then you have the high poly and a low poly right on top of each other. And you want to make sure that it's matching that silhouette, but it's still like fairly efficient with the cage. The cage is the envelope that is on the low poly, so that it encompasses the entire high poly, so that when you bake it down, you don't get any baking errors. And so when you then have your low poly, right, you need to UV unwrap it. UV unwrapping is like a candy. So a candied chocolate that has that wrapper on it. And so if you have that like shaped chocolate with that candy, and then you unfold it, that is essentially UV unwrapping. You are cutting up the different sections of the mesh to be able to unfold it into a flat surface. Then you can texture paint onto that. And so that's what this process is here. And then arranging it so that the UV islands are more efficient within the 0 to 1 UV space. And then from there, we're taking that into Substance Painter. There are other PBR PBR texturing programs besides a Substance Painter, but a Substance Painter is one of the ones that is good to learn, and everybody should have a good basis of how to texture physically based rendering PBR texturing. So in here, we're going to bake down our high poly onto our low poly. And then bake out the different maps. And so with that low poly, we have the textures that we baked from that high poly information onto that low poly and making it efficient. From there, we can then go and add texture information, where we're adding in just like base colors. We can add in like grunge or procedural noise. We can add different like filters. We can add like ambient occlusion. We can add dirt. We can add moss, and all of that to be able to make our rock. Okay, and then obviously going to like render it and then put it into our game engine. So that's a lot of like information there. But I'm gonna get into a little bit of the demo. I have about 30 minutes left. I'll try to get this cut off at like 15 minutes till until 3 o'clock, and then I'll go for questions for about the last 15 minutes. I will be staying afterwards for those people who want to be able to have more questions for me, or if you would like a portfolio review or just want to ask me questions about game development in general or my experience at Oxide Games, please let me know, and I'll be staying afterwards for a while. So I'll go over to the demo now.
Yeah, before we get into that, anybody who's here in person or either on the demo, um, Ryan is a very open and very communicative person about his career. It's a really great experience talking to him. So if you have any like general questions about the industry, not even specific to art, he's also been able to answer some of those questions that I've had personally. And he's a great resource if you're just looking for somebody to talk to generally about career path or just kind of looking into getting into games. He's got a lot of great information surrounding that. So I highly suggest talking to him after if you guys are interested in that.
Thank you, Rick. Okay. All right. Here's one that I kind of made. I was doing this as a demo, just to be able to practice myself. But so how do I make this right? First off, I like gathered like a bunch of reference to be able to say, hey, like, what are some good rocks? There's a lot of different like ones that I could kind of go with. I could go with ones that are more like river rocks, or like just like smaller ones. I can go with like ones that like are a little bit more uh, sedimentary, volcanic, and what's the other one? Uh, there's like three main types, and I can't remember that last one. Darn. Okay.
Igneous.
Igneous. There we go.
Igneous, the
Yeah.
volcanic.
Thank you. Thank you. Science. See, like you still need to know like a general amount of stuff because different industries you find out a little bit more about, and then you can apply them to 3D art. So, like your general education is still important to be able to understand within 3D art. Same thing with like let's say like medical like animation, right? You need to understand anatomy and how like different muscle groups work for sculpting a character, right? So all of it is like interconnected. So yeah, like there's a lot of different types of rocks here, even like little like cliff faces and things. But yeah, so there's lots of different rocks here. Even stuff that's like really like stylized too. You can do stuff that's very specific and custom to a specific cave opening or something like that. Like maybe like it's a pirate cave or something that has buried treasure in it or something. Or just like a general rocks and stuff like that. So yeah, let's go ahead and just put that one back here. Okay, so I've already done this one, so I'm gonna redo it again. Uh, all right, so I'm going to just go in here, just a regular Blender scene here, and then we can go to Object Mesh and then make a new circle or a new sphere. Then we're going into sculpting, and then from here, I have my sculpting brushes here over on the left here. And like yours may look more like this. I just like pulled it out some so that I can see all the brushes. Now I have a tablet as well as a Cintiq. So I'm gonna like move this camera here so that you can see here that this is a little thing here. So cool. All right, let me put it back. Awesome. Okay, so on here, I'm basically going to kind of like sculpt, like shape out this rock here. And so you'll kind of notice that like this has like some like stretch marks and stuff. That's because it has a certain amount of resolution to the actual mesh. And I can only stretch that so far before it's going to look low poly-ish, right? So what I need to do is I need to use remesh. Remesh is going to change up the density. So if I go into wireframe, this is what the current density looks like. So it's maybe like 1,000 or so polygons, but if I go and remesh this, it adds a whole bunch of more resolution to the actual mesh, but it keeps its silhouette like that, right? So I can then go and smooth all this out like that, and then I can then continue to grab out and make some more shape shape things here. So I can try to get this to be a little bit more. Okay, let's get a little bit more shape language in there. And make sure to go in and look at things from different angles, like 360, like look at it and look at its shape, right? Make sure that it's interesting from all sides, making sure that we have at least like 5 sides that we can distinctly tell from any angle. Okay. So from here, like this is pretty good. I'm going to remesh this one more time and kind of smooth it out a little bit. And so from here, I'm then going to use this layer brush. So this layer brush here, I'm going to make it a little smaller and turn up the strength a little bit. So then I can then have this like layering that I'm going to add to. I'm going to put a little more strength in there. And so with this, I can then use this across all sides of it to give it a little bit more bite. It's not just this smooth, perfectly smooth surface. It's got like a little bit more like peaks and valleys. So currently, like I'm just using this brush in a positive manner. So if I like turn the strength up to like 100, then it's gonna only go up like this, right? But you can also go negative, right? So if I use control, I can then use this and go down like that. So it's going in versus up. And so I can just go back and forth between control with the negative and normal, which is the positive, as well as holding down shift, which then goes and smooths it all out. And I'm going back and forth between those different settings on a individual brush. Okay, so basically doing that like a few times. So you'll also notice that there's like a little thing here that I need to add. So I'm going to go back and add like a little piece here. And let's make this a little bigger. Kind of like pull this out. Use the grab. And then you'll kind of see how it like stretches out again, right? Like I need to use this a remesh to get some more resolution in there, and then try to pull it back in there. There's also a number of other like techniques. Like there's actually another thing that allows you to like just like cut rocks as well. So I think it's actually called like carve. So if you go into preferences and then go into like if you type in carve, there's like a carve brush here, which is kind of interesting. I think it's like I forget the hotkey for it. It's like Shift X, Control Shift X. Something like that, but you're basically able to like cut like different sides on that. I actually have like a little thing there for that on this here. Like this goes through how to like cut them here. I have that linked in my tutorial. Okay, so in there, so we got this again. So we're continuing to like build up these like different forms and stuff, right? So let's get like a little bit more in here before I kind of go into crevice mode and then do more of that kind of thing. So I'm going through and doing both the positive and negative on here, and then use remesh again. All right, and then I'm gonna go through and use this like damn standard kind of like slash kind of like carving brush, and then like carving out these different shapes that I want to use. Like this, getting it to be looking interesting from all sides, right? And so I'm just gonna work on this area now because I only have so much time. But like from here, I can then go and use like the pinch brush or maybe like the scrape brush. So like with this one, it's gonna go through and like get this angle, right? And then I can like flatten like one angle, kind of like this. And so like from here, right? Let's say that like we've kind of like sculpted like a whole area that we kind of want, right? I can then go and use those orb brushes, right? And I have added those and appended them into my brush library. And you can download those brushes for free. And then so from here, I can then use what's called an alpha stamp. So with this, I'm like actively like putting a like stamp. Like I'm not like brushing something. I'm like just like stamping it like that. And then I'll like go through and do both like a positive and a negative on these like alpha like stamps. Now, I might need a little bit more resolution to this. So you'll see here that this has a voxel size, and I'll make that like slightly smaller, and then it's going to have more resolution when I add more voxels to it. And so from there, I can then take this, right? And so this is like my finished one, right? So I'm going to switch over to this one here. So this is like my finished rock sculpt, right? So from here, I'm then going to make a copy of it, right? So with this copy here, I have a modifier on it, or I used to, which is for decimate, which is this one here. And then with this, I'm able to decimate it down to the appropriate topology level. So instead of like hundreds of thousands of polygons, I'm then bringing that down to like maybe like 1,000 or something to make it more efficient for a game engine. And then from there, doing the whole UV unwrapping of the low poly, and then going into baking and texturing. So that's like a little bit of that whole workflow to be able to make a single rock like this. But if you're able to make like a bunch of these, then you can create an entire level out of this stuff. Use that with like some terrain textures, get some grass and stuff in there, and you can make a whole environment like pretty quickly. So it's something that is a pretty good skill, and for any like 3D artists out there, I would try to recommend to at least try sculpting, just to see like if you like it. Because for me, like I'm more of an architecture kind of person. So like for me, like I'm making like hard surface like vehicles and doing like sci-fi stuff, or like last year I did like a sci-fi hallway tutorial on how to do like trim sheets or doing like this one here. Like I had a little bit of everything, which actually also I got onto the trending page on a number of like 3D forums and social media, like for ArtStation or Polycount or different 3D Discord groups, and like I did like a whole render and animation and like breakdown on how that actually like go through the whole process for how to make it with the iterative process. At the time, I was kind of using this as a like application to big huge games in a way, because it was using a similar method that they were kind of using. But yeah, that's kind of how you would go about making something like that. So for like environment artists, I would probably say to like learn how to make a prop well, and then once you are able to make one prop really well, then make another one and another one until you keep getting a little bit better. Because like when you make one thing, right, you kind of need to do something that's like at that same skill level and maybe like a little bit harder, right? So that then you can then grow each time you actually work on something. Being able to challenge yourself so that you're not like doing the same thing all the time. And sometimes that's doing something that you've never tried before, or doing something that's like a little bit beyond your skill level. As long as you can like have like some help or some motivation with your peers, to be able to make something that's fun and new. Um, yeah, so like I've also done like some creature stuff too. Like I did a whole like digital sculpt for like creature design. I haven't really gone too much into character stuff, because like I feel like characters is a little bit more not what I want to do, but it's still cool to do like sculptures and creatures and stuff like that, which still uses the same sculpting skills. But like I do have like friends that are really good character sculptors as well. So like definitely give it a try, whichever skill level you or whichever career focus you are in. And one thing that I would definitely suggest is when you're trying to look at like potential like jobs and stuff like that, or just career advice in general. You kind of need to go through this process of like, hey, like I am just about to graduate and I need to get my portfolio ready, and then there's like entry level jobs, right? There's this gap that is kind of difficult, and that's where the IGDA, or the local indie game dev stuff. Look at communities outside of school, right? Like talk to me, talk to different people who are in the jobs which you want to get, and so quality is king. Trying to find a specialization. It's good to have some general skills, but you need to be able to get good enough to get a job at one thing at least, right? So acquire skills require hireable skills that are specific to a job. So go on to LinkedIn or Indeed, look at the skills that they require for the job, right? Try to practice and learn, specialize. Join a 3D community as well. Try to have a very specific goal in mind. Just working in games is not specific enough. Like try to think, okay, what are my top 5 games? Why do I like games? Like what people work at those jobs, right? So if I say, oh, I want to work as a environment artist at Naughty Dog, that's a very specific company, position, and art style that you can then shoot for, and then try to find somebody who works at that company. Try to find somebody who is a junior or somebody who is entry level. Look at their portfolio and be like, huh, okay, this is the quality bar that I need to hit in order to actually even get like some kind of interview, right? So try to level up your skills in that manner. You may not get your first choice, right? So let's say like, oh, I want to work at Blizzard, right? Like that's like the like cream of the crop, my ideal job. I love that company, right? And then it's like, well, you may not get that right out of school. So try to go for maybe the smaller company, right? Somewhere where you can actually get experience, whether that is some kind of internship, or if you can't get that, just make stuff. Continue to work on your skills, even if you don't get that internship. Because when I was working, like a post college, like I did different kinds of like internships, as well as like working on my own time outside of class, outside of school, outside of like working retail or whatever, right? So that I can continue to go towards my ideal job. And I would say that me grinding on my skill set helped me to be able to actually get my job today. So, and it's been a invaluable process and humbling experience to be able to continually get like a little bit better each day. Okay. Um, yep. Term sheets. Yeah. Okay. And I'll use that later. Yeah, make sure to like plan ahead. Doing research on like GDC stuff. There's a whole YouTube channel which is for the Game Developers Conference, and they go over, hey, like how do we actually make this game, right? So look up your favorite game on the GDC Vault and find out how it was made. What are the mistakes that they made, so you don't make those same mistakes. And yeah, it's the Dunning-Kruger effect of like you learn like a few things at first, but then like you realize that you don't know what you don't know, and then it's like a little bit of a hard time trying to actually like gain that understanding, and that's what practice is about. Like you're not going to master something overnight. It does take time, but try to find people who are willing to at least give you advice and critique, and having a good mindset about it, and enjoy the process. So, all right, question time.
So anybody who has questions for Ryan, I would suggest typing them in the chat if you have any specific, or if you feel more comfortable, you could also ask him after the presentation. Um, he's also very active on Discord, so I would recommend just kind of like shooting him like either in general, or you could probably. Ryan, are you okay with DMs?
Yeah, that's fine too. Like I have like a separate like personal like 3D Discord as well, for those people who like want to learn like a little bit more. Like I might be able to help, that or even just in the UMBC game dev Discord as well. I can help go on to the voice chat, and just be like, hey, like I'm working on this thing. What do you think? And I'll be like, okay, like try this, try that. So yeah. Okay. So looking in the chat here, let's see. I got a couple things coming in here. So Rick Williams, I know you. Let's see. It's safe to assume that your portfolio is full of your standard asset class project is the absolute bottom of the barrel, and literally everyone will have a better portfolio than you. You will be in competition with people who easily have 4 years or additional projects beyond the baseline you get from your general education. For courses, your courses. Your courses are easy to learn with the curve. So like finishing stuff. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So going back to like the your coursework will help give you a framework, but I was just talking to a student last night, and I looked at his body of work, and I'm like, I can kind of tell that like some of these projects are like classwork, and you probably don't want those in your portfolio. But that's like all you got, right? So try to make some new stuff so that it's like more applicable to what you do now versus like a year ago, right? And so you can kind of put those old projects away, or because some people like to like slash and burn and like completely like throw that stuff away and then start anew, and then other people, they like to be like, oh, okay, well I might be able to fix this one. Let me try to make this one better, right? Because I've already done some work. I might as well not throw it all away. So both mindsets work. But yeah, like being able to continually work on your craft. Let's see.
I think that's really, I think that's really solid advice in general for like a lot of students looking to kind of get into the industry. Because most of the things we try to pitch here at the club is like, if you guys want to learn game development, the best way to do so is making games. And you know, it really shows to a lot of these like employers for when you start applying out, which I think is really important. So if you're looking to kind of like be able to sell yourself as a game developer or an artist or any kind of aspect in like this like subject area, I think it's really important that you kind of do that work and kind of make it known that you are kind of committed even outside of coursework. And that goes for like programming, art, writing, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's really good advice, Ryan.
For sure. Thank you, Rick. And to help piggyback off of that, like going back to like what's your goal, right? Because like you've been doing school for like 3 4 years now, right? Like you should have some kind of idea of what you would ideally want. And so the more focus you can have on what's your goal, the quicker you can get there. And try to network with people who have those kinds of skills or knowledge, or maybe even have the potential job which you want. Sometimes even going on to LinkedIn, being able to go to networking events like the Baltimore IGDA or the Baltimore Indie Game Devs. All those places will be able to help you like get a better understanding of what it takes to actually like achieve the goal that you want. Okay, so given his question, or their question is, do you have any advice specifically to character art? Thanks for the great tutorial. Okay. Okay, so let me pull up one of my hold on a second. Go here. Go to Ryan.
Just in case anybody's interested at looking at Ryan's portfolio, we have it listed in I believe, the announcements tab on Discord. When we first announced the tutorial. So if you guys want to go look at his, I think is it Kara or Kara? I'm not actually familiar.
Yeah. This is a newer website that's it's similar to ArtStation, but it's kind of newer. They have a different stance on AI stuff. So basically it's a alternative portfolio website to ArtStation, but ArtStation is definitely the bigger one because it's been established for longer. But I have my portfolio on both sites. Given you were asking about character art specifically, Ryan Mariano, he actually was one of my students from when I was teaching about like 5 years ago or so. He was doing stuff like this like within my class, and he has been kind of like mentoring under me for a little bit to be able to model and make game ready assets and stuff like that too. So he's somebody who is trying to do more character stuff, but he does like some other stuff too. So think about like for a character, right? Like a character has like the anatomy part, right? So try to be able to like sculpt or model like male characters, female characters, creatures, animals, someone who's like old, someone who's young, someone who is skinny, someone who's overweight. Like there's many different things that you can try to practice, and sometimes it is. Do you want to focus on the because like characters are kind of a broad subject. So you have the concept, the character concept art, right? Do you like to design characters? Do you like fashion? Do you like clothing? Do you like different cultures? Like things like that, right? That's more like design. You have a character a 3D character artist. Like typically they're somebody who is like sculpting their character. Now they could come up with a original design, right? But that's also harder because you have to be able to have a good design sense as well as create the character. So it is okay to be able to use concept for your stuff. So let me go back to this one. So this one, I didn't make this design. I asked Shang Liam, who made the original design, if I could use that as a 3D model in my portfolio, and he said yes. But even doing something like this, where you're showing, hey, like this is the original concept here, and this is my interpretation of that concept, that's still like completely fine. And with character art, so like you have like the way it's sculpted, right? You have the hair, you have the styling, whether it's realistic or some variation of stylized. You have like the clothing. You have to go and make a low poly and make it game ready. You can also go and say, hey, like, I just want to animate it, right? What if I just take a free character, right? So let's say if you go on to like there's a bunch of different free animated characters that are fully ready to go, and then you can then animate that character. So for a lot of animation students, I would say just like focus on doing the actual animation. That's it. Like no like environment stuff, no character modeling stuff. Just focus on that animation. Some people they want to be able to just do the rigging part, or tech art. And the funny thing is that both with rigging and tech art, those are almost always in demand. So you can be able to like practice that stuff, and then be able to get a job like fairly quickly. Now it's a little bit more like tedious or very technical, right? But there's a number of jobs like even within a environment artist that can be technical. So like don't let that stop you. Okay. Next question by Steven. Uh, should we expect to use engines like Maya and not Blender in the games industry regarding 3D modeling because they're more industry standard? I've heard it's a standard for 3D animation, so I assume it bleeds into 3D modeling for games. Okay, that's a good question. So it does depend on the studio. So certain studios will prefer maybe one software over another, right? Like for me, like I've learned like a lot of software. Like I first learned 3ds Max back in high school, and then for UMBC I learned Maya, and then eventually I learned Blender for a different job, and then I went back to 3ds Max. I've learned like many different things. In terms of like 3D modeling, whatever you can, whatever software gets you the results that you want, right? So like for this, I don't necessarily care if you can model this thing in Maya, in Blender, in Max. What I care about is the results and you showing good work. That's what I care about, as a potential like hiring manager. Like that's like you are showcasing how it's made, and the results are like very good. It's showcasing your overall skills with modeling, texturing, UVing, lighting, presentation, like all of that. Like that's more of what I care about, because like let's say like I'm like a master at like Blender, right? Obviously, like Blender's free to a degree. Like there's a bunch of add-ons and plugins and stuff that will make it not free, but whatever. But yeah, like you'd have to like maybe for that job, if you learn Blender, then you might be able to like learn 3ds Max or Maya. So like let's say like you're taking a box, right, and then you're making like a cut, right? It might be called the knife tool or like the slice tool or something in different programs, but it's the same kind of function, right? It's just in a different place and named differently. So it's your skill as a general like modeler, a 3D artist. That's what's important. Okay. Um, let's see. Given again, thanks for the detailed info. Would you say that 3D character art is a less programmatic niche than something more technical or even something environment? Okay, so one of the reasons why I wanted to go into I don't have a slide for this. Okay. So let me pull up. Let me pull up Aura again. Uh, so think about the game. Think about the company, right? For the project, right? Um, for a game like Aura, let's let me just put that on loop for a second here. So for a game like Aura, this game has it requires more environment artists. It requires more engineers and gameplay designers and UI. So there's a certain number of people that they need at that job, and so we do have character artists. And we do have plenty of leaders to be able to make those make it a very fleshed out world. The thing is that we do have a like character and environment and rigging team to be able to do that. But there are less of them than other departments. So I was in the environment team. The environment team has like 8 people to make like all this stuff here. Versus the like character team had like 2 character artists, 2 animators, and a rigger. So like 5 people across those different departments. So there was less of those people needed, right? But let's say it's the exact opposite. Let's take a look at League of Legends, right? So with League of Legends, right? Like their kind of game is a completely different model because they have the exact same map that everybody plays like one map essentially, and you have hundreds of characters. It's the exact opposite. They need a lot more characters, right? So think about which game it is, like with what style, and what opportunities you have with that game company, right? So different companies will need different kinds of people. Okay. Josh, if I have an interest in PvP scenarios or combat interactions, how would I show off that interest through my work? Okay, so you sound like somebody who is interested in game design then. Okay, so with game design, there's a couple things that you can experiment with. It does depend on what kind of games you like, but like with Ara History Untold, right? This was originally a board game. So somebody designed the gameplay systems in a 2D format to be able to be a board game. And they also had like design documents that had like spreadsheets of rules and balance and when things would evolve, right? So like for you, you're mostly interested in a PvP or a combat. So like you're looking at the combat designer, right? So let's say if we go back to this, right? So how does combat happen in Aura, right? That's a pretty loaded question there, right? Because it took us a long time to be able to figure out how that was going to play out. And sometimes it's going to be completely different, right? Sometimes that requires you to think about the level design. What makes it fun, right? Is how to make the combat fun. Is this a shooter? Is this a action RPG? Like think of those interactions with PvP. You also have to think about networking, how it's going to like load into a game. Like how is that size of the arena for the combat? Like how does level design dictate gameplay, right? And so you need to work with level designers to be able to make the level fun, and you as the combat gameplay designer, right? You have to be able to think about weapon balance or the skills the skill tree for your character, or the items on the map. Like, how do you balance those things together, right? All those things are important questions that you need to be able to help think about with the design of a game. I would also probably look at the GDC vault. So if we go to uh, YouTube GDC, GDC. So like on here, this a YouTube channel which is for the GDC. They have breakdowns of how people iterated on game design. So I would probably check out videos on here about like game design, or whichever discipline that you're intrigued by or want to find out more. Definitely check out the GDC Vault. It's a wealth of information on how games are made.
And something that Ryan mentioned earlier that I think is pretty valuable. If there's a game you really like the mechanics of, search up its title and then like plus GDC on YouTube, and you're pretty likely, especially if it's a really popular game, to find a great like talk about how they designed that mechanic or anything surrounding the game, which is really fascinating to hear like in depth from the developers in like a conference context, which is really cool. I've definitely used it before. It's super awesome.
Yeah, and I actually was talking to somebody from the club actually, like a couple days ago. They were asking about audio. So one thing that I was talking to some of the audio engineers at Oxide Games, and one of them, he's actually a professor, a adjunct professor at Peabody at Johns Hopkins, and he was telling me that one thing that audio people who want to get into audio for games, they need to be able to like network, as well as like practice your craft. Go to game jams, being able to work with teams that way, or like let's say like you can't like get your audio internship or something, right? Like you're having a hard time with it. Just being able to make like game scores, make UI sounds, make Foley sounds, make voiceover, make like just making the audio, and it might be applicable for games, it might be applicable for TV, movies, whatever. It's still practicing those skills and getting better at it. It's getting better at audio design, and like maybe it's playing instruments, maybe it's composing, maybe it's a little bit of everything. So practice the thing that you want to be able to do for your career.
That was also really good questions. The people who asked them, thank you so much to give uh, Ryan a good platform to kind of talk and share his experience. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up there. Ryan, unless you got any closing remarks, I think that was a great presentation.
Okay. Yeah, the only other things that I have would be for I have like additional like resources and stuff here at the end for people who like want to know more. I have like extra links here for a number of different things, from like there's a lot of stuff. Like I have YouTube searched like everything in my career. I would say that like YouTube is a phenomenal resource. Like compared to like when I was like first starting out, like I had to go and buy tutorials on DVDs, like compared to now, like everything's on YouTube. So like there's a wealth of different things out here. This guy 3D EX is amazing. Same thing with flip normals. Oh yeah, for who is it, Gibbon? Yeah, Gibbon. He was interested within a character artist. Flip Normals is two character artists, like professors that got together to make a YouTube channel. Check him out. Um, yeah, I'll like obviously stay after within the chat here. Or in the main conference room for people who want to do like a portfolio review or like ask me questions individually. I'll probably be on for the next like hour or so until like the questions stop coming. So thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to doing this again sometime.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ryan. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much.